Warm greetings to everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to meet you all in this webinar about e-vehicle, electric vehicle, which is jointly organized by Tamil Nadu Advanced Technical Training Institute and M-Auto Electric Mobility. Let us rise for the Tamil Thai வாழ்த்து.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் மதனமென திகழ்வரத கண்டமிதில் வெக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு திரை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம்பியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
A brief introduction about both the institutions. Tamil Nadu Advanced Technical Training Institute is entering its 35th year in education industry, and we have more than 3 lakh alumni so far. We have been training people in automobile, electrical, AC refrigeration, logistics and supply chain management, event management, public relations, and to go on, we have close to 50 different courses which we offer to all the participants across the globe. We have tied up with various universities across the globe to enhance the training and the learning capacity of the students. We have been training partners for the Indian military, the Tamil Nadu Police Department, and many government organizations. We conduct training programs in collaboration with more than 40 different universities across South India. And M-Auto has been successfully introducing electric autos in Tamil Nadu. For the first time in India, M-Auto would be introducing 4,000 electric autos in Chennai alone, which will be driven by female drivers. So with that, let us go into the program. A brief introduction about electric vehicle and how important it is going to be in the future. The global electric vehicle fleet expanded significantly over the last decade, underpinned by supportive policies and technological advances. Global sales of passenger cars were sluggish in 2019, but electric cars had another banner year. Sales of electric cars topped 2.1 million globally in 2019, surpassing 2018, already a record year, to boost the stock to 7.2 million electric cars worldwide. Electric cars, which is accounted for 2.6% of the global car sales and 1% of the global car stock in 2019, registered a 40% year-on increase. As technological progress in the electrification of two-wheeler, three-wheeler, buses and trucks advances, the market for them grows. Electric vehicles are expanding significantly. Ambitious policy announcements have been critical in stimulating the electric vehicle rollout and major vehicle markets in recent years. In 2019, indications of a continuing shift from direct subsidies to policy approaches that rely more on regulatory and on other structural measures, including zero-emission vehicles, mandates, and fuel economy standards, have set clear long-term signals to the auto industry and consumers that support the transition in an economically sustainable manner for governments. The electric vehicle market is projected to reach 26 billion units by 2030 from an estimated 3 million units in the upcoming years. This is a brief about how the electric vehicle industry is going to be booming. With that, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce today's first speaker of the day, Yasmin Jawarhali. She is the CEO of M-Auto Electric Mobility. She has received numerous awards in entrepreneurship from M-Auto as it is India's first retrofit electric tuk-tuk manufacturer, popular among India as well as global market. He's also a blogger and has been writing about various issues related to women health awareness, emotional resilience, and business development opportunities for women. She has shaped the career of many women and has brought in many women drivers to join the company and given them jobs and motivated them. With this, it gives me great pleasure to have you with us, ma'am. The session is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's nice having this session happening, and that is mainly for our peoples of South India. And to start about with Emoto, myself, Yasmin Jawahar Ali, CEO of Emoto Electric Mobility. What Emoto Electric Mobility is all about is the manufacture of three-wheeler auto rickshaws. So first, let's start the topic with the electric vehicle industry in India. Why electric vehicles? That is the main question, which is much asked by all of us. Why there's a conversion to the electric vehicles? First of all, what we are facing now is the pollution levels, high pollution levels, global warming, and there was a recent climate action meeting happened in UK and UN and with all the countries. These countries had a conclusion of bringing up electric vehicles just to save our mother earth from pollution, various pollutions like air pollution, noise pollution, and various other pollutions too. If you take India, 30 years before, the Indian climate and all those conditions were extremely too good, and these conditions were actually favoring us. But after 30 years now, in 2020, and if you say it in 2018, 2019, and 2020, these conditions of climate has changed drastically. We have experienced lots of temperature rise in the normal days, as well as we have extensive rains, as well as we have many collapses happening due to natural disasters, etc. So all these are the result of the unstable level of pollution in India. So that is where the need of electric vehicles started. The pollutions are caused due to many factors. One of the factors is the transportation. In transportation, the major factor of pollution is from the industrial commercial vehicles as well as the auto rickshaw three-wheelers. So if you see the pollution levels, in 2019, the last pollution report, we came to know that the major pollution is from the industrial side. The transport pollution is 11%. Though it is 11%, it is believed that reducing the transport pollution, it would actually result in a good and cleaner environment for all of us. So that is where the electric vehicle need started to increase. So India has been working in the electric vehicles for past 3-4 years. From 2017, we have been working on the electric vehicles and the need of the electric vehicles. To be precise, actually the need of the electric vehicle in India started back in 2015. So there was FAME 1, which was introduced in 2015. The FAME 1 and its regulations, everything was working, the subsidiaries, everything was working till 2019. So FAME 2 is where there was a kickoff because the National Energy Mission 2020 was launched, and that is where the need of the electric vehicle started. So if you see in 2020, we can see the electric vehicles on roads, let it be as a two-wheeler or let it be as a three-wheeler. We have not seen that much electric four-wheelers coming in rather than 2 to 3 models. But in 2020, we are able to see electric vehicles on roads. That is the improvement from 2015 to 2020 we have got. If you see electric vehicles compared to an IC engine, they are 50% to 70% more efficient, and they are less effective, and they have, if you see the effectiveness of the electric vehicle is more. So 3 to 4 times it is more. In IC engine, you have so much of spare parts and you have so much of regulations, you have so much of things happening inside an IC engine. But whereas in an electric vehicle, it is not that much complicated structure. If you take it as three-wheeler exclusively, in three-wheeler, you have a motor, you have a controller and a battery with a simple mechanism. And it doesn't gain so much of extra complicated structure, and it doesn't have any kind of emissions, zero emission. So obviously, when you replace an ICE engine with an electric vehicle, you can see so much of clean air. If you take now instance, after COVID-19, once the lockdown started, the pollution of India has reduced by 40%. So that is something huge. the global warming, all those effects have started to heal by itself. The Mother Earth started to heal just because the transportation is put on hold and the lockdown has been made this to happen. So this makes you know the value of the electric vehicle. So coming to the other point, three wheelers. If you see three wheeler plays a major role in India. If we take it in Chennai, we have around 1 lakh three wheelers running on road every day. And in Tamil Nadu, we have around 10 lakh auto rickshaws. If we take it in India, we have 1 crore auto rickshaws, which is unbelievable. And three wheeler is not only the asset of India, three wheeler is running in 70 countries. All these 70 countries having three wheeler in larger number, and that is one of the second mass transport in most of the countries. So this three wheeler market is a huge commercial market. For example, one of the player in India who's the major largest manufacturer of three wheelers sells 780,000 vehicles per year alone. So just think of one vehicle causes you an CO2 emission of 410. So for 780,000 vehicles, you can't even imagine how much disaster has been made and how much emission has been made. We all have been breathing the same kind of an CO2 filled up air. So that is where everybody believes that need of the electric vehicle is more important. So that is where the journey of the electric vehicle starts from 2015. So now in 2020, EESL, that is the Energy Efficiency Service Limited, has planned along with the government, central government, to purchase 10,000 vehicles. The government themselves are going to purchase 10,000 vehicles, and they're going to bring up the need of electric vehicle is so important. That's why the smart mobility projects are happening, and that is why we are able to see so much of investments pumping in into the electrical industry. So in 2020 alone, the major investments have been pumped into the energy service sectors and clean energy related companies and the smart mobility solution companies. So coming to three-wheeler has two types of sectors. One is L4 category and other one is L5 category vehicle. The L4 category vehicle is simply an asymmetrical structure motorcycle with a side wheel. So that is what is basically. And L4 category is also called as e-rickshaws. E-rickshaws you can majorly see in New Delhi and NCR, New Delhi, NCR, all those kind of regions in North India. If you see L5 category is an symmetrical structure, and it's a proper three-wheeler like how we have an IC engine vehicle. So L4 and L5 are the two categories of three-wheelers we have as of now. And the L4 doesn't need any kind of registrations or anything, and it is not for a commercial purpose. An L5 category vehicle is for a commercial purpose, and it can be used for commercial purpose of goods as well as for the passengers. So we ourselves, Emoto, are the India's first RI approved vehicle. RI approval for various other vehicles are not available, and we ourselves are the first RI retrofitted vehicle. So what is retrofit? We know about L4, L5 now, and we know about ICE, but what is retrofitment? See, already we have so much of existing vehicles which is causing a huge pollution. So introducing a new vehicle will not be a solution, and that is not going to solve the purpose at all. So in that instance, what would be the solution to immediately resolve the existing thing which is happening, the existing number of vehicles? That is where Emoto came up with retrofitment. Back in 2017, we came up with retrofitted solution. A retrofitted solution is simply like taking your ICE engine and just converting the engine replaced with battery, motor and controller, just converting the existing vehicle. So we are into a mission of converting 4,000 electric vehicles, 4,000 ICE three-wheelers, that is 20 years old. From 2000, we can convert the entire vehicle to an electric. So let it be 2000 registered vehicle, let it be 20 years old vehicle also. We can just convert it to a new vehicle. That is where the major revolution happened. And back in 2019, our Honorable CM have launched a retrofitted electric solution, and we have also are into an initiative of bringing 4,000 electric retrofitted autos in Chennai alone. So you can just imagine, just because of introducing 4,000 autos, we are able to equivalently get the goodness of planting 116 million trees. You can't even imagine that. Just planting the trees just to get rid of pollution will not be an immediate solution, because a tree to attain its proper thing will take for 20 years, whereas just replacing your vehicle with the electric will instantly impact the environment around, and we ourselves can see how the nature is clear and how we are able to feel the difference and how we are able to get the Mother Earth back to its form. So that's how the major thing started. And these electric vehicles should also have certain regulations to be followed. For example, FAME 2 has so much of regulations that has been given directly to the manufacturers to follow it. For example, we have three-wheelers which can only use LFP batteries and lithium-ion batteries, not LTO. There are three types of batteries currently in the market. In Indian market, it is LFP and normal lithium ion, not LTO batteries. LTO batteries have still not arrived to India, and we are already lagging 5 years than the international EV market. But still, the LTO batteries is still under the discussion by the government. Still, central government has not given approval for the LTO batteries to get into India because it has its own effects. So these LFP batteries and the lithium ion batteries are the major which is used now in the industry. And these LFP batteries will have two types of two types of cell arrangements. One is cylindrical cell, the other is prismatic cell. And these batteries have come up now with a non-combustible solution. So like all we know, olden days we had some Reva car coming, and we had some auto solution electric autos coming in, which had so much of fear among the peoples because it might have combustion, it might burst at any point of time, or these vehicles may failure. And we also had doubts about the speeds and ranges. But all this now have been satisfied with our LFP batteries, as well as LFP batteries which are generally available. These LFP batteries are coming up with a solution called non-combustible solution. So what happens is, like, at any cost, you can immerse it in the water, or you can put it on the fire, or you can want to leave and fire it. These batteries will not fire. These batteries will obviously just emit some smoke, that's all, and nothing is going to happen. So this makes sure the safety of public is very well assured in these electric vehicles. In these electric vehicle market, we have around various OEMs who are working for the e-rickshaws, but not the L5 categories. This working on L5 category is something which is much more important and much more needed now. EESL is going to purchase about 10,000 vehicles now in 2020, might be by 2020 and 2021. Because of COVID, it has gone delayed. So they are going to purchase 10,000 vehicles, which is actually indirectly saying us that 1 lakh employment opportunities readily available in the market. So only electric is the future, electric vehicle and the blooming of the industry is the future. So we're going to have a huge number of needs for the engineers or the technicians who are well versed with the electric vehicles. These electric vehicle knowledge is much needed because IC engine is no more going to boom. We have seen from BS4 now with BS6, and even though BS6 is coming, many people are very clear that electric is the only future and the solution, and we are going to develop better and better with electric and the hybrid vehicles. So obviously this electric and hybrid vehicles need as given and direct and the indirect need of the electric vehicle trained engineers and the trained technicians. And if you take in three-wheelers majorly, Indian Tamil Nadu government is bringing up around 10,000 three-wheelers. They have given a target of 10,000 three-wheelers in 2021 alone. So the 10,000 three-wheelers obviously needs a technician of around 1 lakh technicians to work on it and bring on the manufacturing side as well as on the technical sides and the improvement on the design side. So the electric mobility in Tamil Nadu has a huge scope and will be wanting many graduates who can come up and work on the battery segment as well as the motor segment as well as on the controller segment. If you see M-Auto electric mobility auto rickshaw, this has been a boom in the industry, and this has been an autonomous solution for various other stuffs too. So M-Auto electric has 11 variants of vehicle, not one variant of electric three-wheeler. We have 11 variants of vehicle. Our vehicle runs in a speed of maximum 70 km, but we have regulated it to 55 km speed because that is what is suitable to our roads and to the regulations of the government. And these vehicles are fitted with LFP battery, and this vehicle has the single charge has a range of around 130 kilometers. It can also vary for other variant of vehicles. I'm speaking about the passenger vehicle. Other variant of the vehicle will have minimum of 110 kilometer range to 130 kilometer range. So these vehicles on a single charge can run to 130 kilometer, as well as for the single charge it takes up to 2 hours in the normal charging. These have onboard chargers and it can be used on the domestic current. Normal 15 amps plug is what is used here. You can charge as if like you charge your mobile phone at your home. But for that kind of AC charging, it will take 2 hours. But once we have all our DC charging units being set up with solar powered DC charging units, various areas. So in those DC charging units, you can charge the vehicle within 15 minutes. But quick charging is not that much. Quick charging or super power charging is not that much encouraged by the government, because our electric power grid lines or our kind of developed structure of electricity provident is not there. So they have asked us to go with the normal DC charging and normal AC charging. So these vehicle, what does it replace with IC engine? IC engine vehicle, for a driver, for a normal auto driver, he has to spend 350 rupees to 400 rupees for fuel. Let it be gas, let it be petrol, let it be diesel, or let it be anything. But this is replaced by just 50 rupees, because it's gonna only a charge. It will take only 5 units to get fully charged. So 5 units maximum pricing would be 50 rupees. So something like 300 rupees is just replaced by 50 rupees, which in turn is gonna affect a large number of auto drivers, and for their daily income it will be of great use. And it doesn't have any maintenance, it doesn't have anything to be replaced except the tires, 3 tires which it has. So that is the major plus of having electric vehicle. And next topic to cover is about the subsidies. Government has given so much of attractive subsidies for purchasing the electric vehicles. For example, from 1,800 rupees to 28,000 rupees is what the subsidy given for a two-wheeler as well as for the three-wheeler. And for the four-wheeler, the subsidy goes up to 1,38,000 based on the value of the car. Why these are so expensive? That is the other most asked question. We have to see IC engine and its structures are more complex than the electric, but at the same time, these resources are well versed and these resources have been already occupied by India. But whereas if you see lithium, India doesn't have so much of lithium resources, and we don't own any lithium resources as we own for the fuel, IC engines and all those sourcing. All these is dependent majorly from China. China is the master with all those supply chain, as well as on the production of battery side, as well as for the BLDC motors and everything. They are ahead, 10 years ahead from us. So that is where the cost has become huge, because everything from battery, everything gets imported from China, Australia, and various other places too. Because since we don't have the lithium resources, we need to import it. So that is why the cells, the battery alone is costing more. For example, for a normal three-wheeler, it costs around 3 lakhs, from 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs, which can go up to a range of around 130 kilometers, 130 kilometers in a single charge and a speed of 70 kilometers. So why? Because the battery alone takes the 60% of the whole cost. The LFP battery, lithium peroxide battery, the whole cost majorly it holds the 60% of the whole cost of the vehicle. So that is why the cost of the vehicle is high, and the government is working on it to have owned resources of lithium. So Indian government is on its way to get the resources, own resources, and to have all those supply chain made in India, rather than importing it from China or from Australia or from various other countries. So soon it is expected in next 3 years, maximum by 2022, the vehicles battery pricing have to come down. And again, we have a new rule that the vehicle with the battery need not to be sold. The vehicle alone can be sold, and the battery can be on a rental basis or can be on a leasing basis. So government is so much providing so much of favor and the importance to the electric vehicle. That is where youngsters should understand that there is a need of youngsters to learn about electric vehicle, because we peoples have been taught about ICE, we peoples have been taught about AC, DC current, but not exactly more about the battery segment or more about the electric vehicle segment. I'm able to see so much of graduates approaching us, but whereas they have very nil knowledge, though they do 2 degrees or 3 degrees, but still they have very basic nil knowledge about the electric vehicle. So that is where the need employment opportunities available. Only thing is we need the exact trained graduates who can just handle and work on the manufacturing of the electric vehicles. So that's going to be the future, and this is the this segment, electric segment, is the major need now. So youngsters should start working on the electric vehicles, and they should understand why there is so much of subsidies available, why so much of investments available, and why this is much more important now, why the entire ICE is converting to the EV industry. So once they know about it, obviously the need of EV will be very known, and EV is going to be a boom market. They have targeted to have at least $140 million worth infra for the charging alone. So you can't just imagine how much funds will be pumped in just to provide the infrastructure which is suitable for the EV. If we at least replace 2 lakh vehicles, at least 2 lakh three-wheelers in India with EV three-wheeler, obviously that's going to help us to reduce 20 to 30% of the pollution in a single year, which is something that is unimaginable. So we request everybody to just know and understand about the EV vehicles, and the engineers, like let it be mechanical engineers or any electrical engineers, they have a biggest scope in this industry. So that is what I wanted to say from myself. And we as Emoto, having an variants of 11 vehicles, anytime anybody who wish to contact us or who wish to see us, our plans, and who wish to see the manufacturing, they can see the vehicles and the manufacturing type, and they can understand what is electric vehicles three-wheeler industry is all about. Thank you. If you have any questionnaire answers, we can go for it.
Yes, ma'am. The first question to you is, it's a very major question in many people's mind. Is India really ready for electric vehicles? And how the auto segment will react to this initiative? Your thoughts on that, ma'am?
Yes, of course India is ready, because as far as my perspective, we are already late in this race of EV industry, because already outside India, China has the infrastructure done for 3-4 years back, and we have United Nations which has the proper infrastructure. Actually, we are actually lagging in the race, and if we have been more proactive and we've been doing all this 3 years before, by now we have reduced the pollution. We might have actually saved us from various other effects from the pollution. For example, if you see in the three-wheeler industry, we had some R&D happening for the driver's behavior. You can see the driver doesn't behave much well. They are so much irritated. They have so much irritation within them. We never know what is the reason why the auto driver Anna is always much irritated to be open. We always think why he always bees on a ruder side. So when we had some kind of research happening for past a year, we came to understand that that is because of the noise he's hearing every time. For us, for half an hour riding in an auto rickshaw, you might feel the noise is heavy and too much for us to handle. Whereas for auto drivers, whole lifetime, for 20-30 years, he's hearing the same noise, and his mental behavior from first to now has slowly changed just because of the irritation caused due to the noise pollution. So that is a simple thing which makes you understand that the need of electric vehicle is more, and we are already ready for the electric vehicles need. If you see in North India, might be South India, we are slowly coming up with the infrastructures and we are slowly building up the charging points. But if you see in North India, like Delhi, Mumbai, they are very well ready. They are very well already. They have around 4,000 e-rickshaws running all over. They have normal L5 category vehicles of around 1,000 running here and there, and they have the last mile connectivity. What is lagging in India is last mile connectivity. For anybody who has an office anywhere in the center of the city, or who has to travel from the outside city, they have the urban transport, they have the normal transport, public domestic transport, but that doesn't connect them. The last mile connectivity is what missing. So when it is replaced by e-rickshaws or replaced by three-wheelers, electric three-wheelers, obviously the last mile connectivity will be succeeded, and we are ready for the electric vehicle market because we need an alternative from which reduces the fuel cost. Fuel cost is the biggest burden to all the middle class now. You see, any middle class family, they have every day running for their fuel cost. Every day morning, they have a tension of grabbing 100 rupees, 200 rupees from the parent youngsters or anyone, any middle class, they have the tension of having the fuel cost. And the fuel cost has been rising drastically from 56 rupees back in 2014 to 70 plus rupees. Now is like something very huge, and for a normal middle class to handle is not possible. And the maintenance rate of IC engine is about 43%. That is something more. You buy a vehicle for 4 lakhs and you maintain it for 2 lakhs more in a year of two is like that is something too much for people to handle. For a middle class, he gets a car for 5 lakhs, but the maintenance cost for 2 years again goes 1 lakh plus. So what happens? That doesn't that gives him lots of mental pressure and losses. When it is coming to EV, it's a zero emission. You don't have any maintenance. It's a zero maintenance, and you'll have everything on a secured light. The battery is something with a major part which comes with a 3 to 4 years of warranty. So for a middle class, having a single vehicle for 4 years with a warranty with the zero maintenance is something biggest asset. So that is where we are already ready. The charging points are getting ready. Even Tamil Nadu is going to have 4,000 plus EV three-wheelers with 400 charging points, which will be there everywhere in public. So even we have colorful subsidies from the government, and this all puts a need of EV to boom in India now.
Ma'am, definitely you would have faced many challenges. So, what could you elaborate on some of the challenges the EV vehicle manufacturers are facing?
Yeah, manufacturers' major challenges, we don't have EV proper technicians and graduates in India. That is the major challenge. The resource to make the EV vehicle is much more important. As you know, scalability is the biggest strength for the manufacturer. He has to scale from number 1 to 10 to 100 to 1000. When he scales, he needs the same number of human power resource also. But whereas in EV industry, we don't find the proper technician. We have a very less number of technicians. That is the biggest struggle we Emoto ourselves face. We have to pull in somebody from North. If you take specifically South India, specifically Tamil Nadu, we are just lagging a lot where we don't even have 10% of the graduates who are very well versed with the EV industry or the training which they have to undergo with the battery management or the BMS system or the CAN system. All these are like very less knowledge known by the graduates who are readily available in the market. So in the market, we find very hard for the resource, human resource, power resource for the technician is what the first challenge we would face. The second challenge was the EV policies in the each state were like little delayed. From 2017, we had EV policies slowly being launched by each government. So that is where each EV policies were different. From state to state, it was different. So manufacturer to handle a specific kind of direction was not that given properly, and still we are lagging in the EV policies, whereas charging infrastructure side is not that much concentrated. Only it is concentrated towards the batteries and towards the vehicles. Even batteries on a second preference, only the vehicle. But in the EV industry, charging infra should be given a much more concentration. Charging infra should be given much more subsidiary, and batteries should be given much more subsidiary. So that is where we need changes in the policy side. The third would be the supply chain. Supply chain for a EV manufacturer is not that great. That too after COVID, after having an kind of break in the supply chain from China, all the manufacturers, not ourselves, all the manufacturers face lots of issues. First would be the resources. We need resources. We need youngsters who after even finishing 12th graduate, they can just get into the battery management and they have a really big scope. Not alone in India. To your knowledge, there is a fact of jobs wanted for EV industry, more like 1 lakh plus jobs. High standard, like for example, CEOs for the electric companies are needed. Even for the CEOs of electric companies are needed. 1 lakh plus jobs every day are being boomed into the online. market. So we need so much of technicians for EV now. That is what right now we need a lot.
Wonderful, ma'am. Last question, ma'am. A direct question from one of the participants. Let us say there's a trained person in electric vehicle, like that is giving a trained person.
Yeah.
Do you have job opportunities currently in your organization, ma'am?
Yeah, M-Auto has a huge number of job opportunities. Why? Because M-Auto is actually spreading its fleet. M-Auto three-wheeler is giving up all the dealerships, and we have planned to come up with 50 number of dealers in less than next 3 to 4 months. And as well as after that also, every dealer needs minimum of 50 to 60 technicians. So each, if you see, each city has 4 to 5 dealers, and each dealer needs 50 to 60 number of technicians. So obviously we have so much of need for the technicians, and immediately we'll be recruiting them in the various forms. We have various categories like battery management, for the motor management, as well as motor making, BLDC motor making, as well as controllers. And beyond this, there's the biggest segment called charging infra. Charging infra, AC DC chargers, is where a large number of technicians is added than the manufacturing of vehicles. So obviously we have the need and we'll take it. We'll be happy to take, Chatti is able to give us even 100 people a month.
Super. Ma'am, thank you very much for your thoughtful and inspiring speech about electric vehicle. You have elaborated how the system works and how the future is going to be. Thank you for spending your valuable time with all our participants, ma'am. On behalf of our institutions, we graciously thank you for spending your time with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It now gives me immense pleasure to introduce to all of you the next speaker of today, Ms. Angela. She is joining us from Germany today. She is a qualified attorney specialized in the field of intellectual property law and information technology law. She is graduated from law school in 2011 and over the years have done 2 master degrees, one in the field of intellectual property law and other in the field of information technology. She has the opportunity to be educated in different countries and worked in different countries such as Macedonia, France, Germany, and UK. And due to that, she has gained more knowledge and experience in several European jurisdictions, including Germany and top European Union countries. Currently, she is working in Germany, practicing mostly intellectual property law, since most of her cases are connected to tech development and technology. She is going to speak about how EV vehicles and are going to impact the future and what are the laws which are attached to it. Ma'am, the session is yours.
Hi, Joshua. I hope you can. Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so as you said, today we're going to talk about e-vehicles and the regulations that are around European Union and Germany. Mostly will be Germany because Germany is one of the countries that is really dealing with this issue on a different level. I would like to cover like 2 topics. The first topic is going to be most connected to how e-vehicles are treated in Germany, and not only in Germany but in European Union as such, and as well like how we are dealing with cases when it comes to autopilots doing an accident or stuff like that. And the second topic will be connected to the privacy, which is one of the biggest and major topics that everybody's talking about currently. And it's mostly connected to the safety of your personal data as such, that the car will be able, or it's able to connect. So first of all, just to give you like a brief details about what's going on in Europe, is that the vehicles as such are already regulated. Like there is a regulation in place in European Union, which is covering e-vehicles and hybrid vehicles. So electronic and hybrids are already partly regulated. Of course, 100% regulation is never possible, and laws are changing on basis as it comes. But at this point, they are covered, and there is in the regulation is said that from having in mind that these vehicles are really soundless and they are really quiet as such, so they might cause a lot of problems when it comes to people like deaf people or people that have a different type of difficulties. So that's why the cars from now on will have to be fitted with a new system which is going to be like a safety system, and it has to be like an audio and visuality system. So in a way, it will function that that system will produce a sound up to 20 kilometers per hour when the car starts, the engine starts off, and up to 20 kilometers it will create a sound. It will be the same when the car is slowing down, so that people will be able to hear that kind of a sound. This is mostly connected to places like in the cities, like where you have pedestrians mostly and stuff like that. So that is why it has to be something that's implemented. This is going to be obligatory for everyone since next year, 1st of July 2021. So everybody who is producing any type of electric cars, they will have to consider that for the European market, they will have to have this type of system included. I don't know how much you are aware, but most of the German manufacturers are already working on electronic cars. So basically, they are covering the market as such, and they are talking about how to make these systems to be much more safer for everybody, and as well, not only like environment, but it's also for the people that are living there. But let's go to the topic when it comes to the autonomous cars, which I believe it's a little bit more interesting from legal perspective. One of the biggest and really complicated issues that we are having currently is that everybody's like talking about is about the Tesla autopilot and what actually that autopilot means. So there have been several accidents around Europe when it comes to autopiloting and when it comes to Teslas. Mostly Tesla, because Tesla is the current biggest manufacturer when it comes to electronic vehicles, and the biggest manufacturer when it comes to using autopilot and autonomous cars as such. So there has been a crash in Germany. This is really interesting case. It has been a crash in Germany in near Hamburg. And the crash involved a car, which is a model of Tesla, Model S of Tesla, and the car as such did the accident with a bus. Luckily, there were no fatalities, so there was no big deal. But the thing was that the autopilot of the car was engaged, and the driver as such was not paying attention, thinking that the autopilot is the one having the control of the car. But the real question is whether it should be considered like that. The German police went to that level to say that autopilot as such on Tesla car will not or shall not be considered as something that should drive by itself. So due to it, they were treating the autopilot as a cruising control device. So according to them, it was the fault of the driver that he didn't put his feet and his hands on the wheel, but sat on the pedals. So in a way, what Germany said in that point was that you, as much as you have an autopilot who is really in a way helping you out with the driving and maybe relaxing, but you cannot be the one who is going to be living that out of circumstance. The biggest problem is that we're still talking, like there are a lot of talks when it comes to this. So this is still an ongoing issue, how it should be solved, because we are aware that the autopilot being as such already in cars, and everybody's gonna start using them. So it's an interesting topic that is gonna have to be covered up in a very different way in Europe, and I believe everywhere in the world, not only in Europe. So it has to be studied to be treated a little bit differently, because at the first, from a legal perspective, the first people that will get to see will be like, okay, but what if the feet and like, what if everything was in place? What if his feet were on his paddle? What if his hands were on the wheel and still the accident happened? Who who would have the fault, because it might be that the autopilot is in a faulty. So who is the one who is going to be responsible for that kind of accident? In a way, that is still something that is discussed a lot, but there is no real solution to it. There will be a lot of changes when it comes to these stuff. Currently, the German courts are treating autopilots, like they even said to Tesla that they should stop use the word autopilot in order to not do misleading to consumers that the cars shall be driving by itself and that they are the ones doing their own things. So they are, in a way, they are telling them that autopilot should be out of use as a word, because the autopilot shall not be the one who is going to be controlling of the car, and that the drivers should be aware that they shall have the full control as such, and that they are the ones who is going to get responsibility when it comes to it, at least until now, until they figure it out how this whole thing will go in further. There was another accident regarding this in Netherlands, where it was a fatality. So the driver of the Tesla died because of the car, because the car was caught fire. So it was all really hard for them to take out the body. Like Tesla had to come over on the scene and explain to the firefighters how to take the body so that it doesn't cause even bigger issues for the environment. So one of the biggest questions there was that when they were asked about the engagement of the autopilot, the Tesla said that there is no engagement, that the autopilot was not on. But the real question is whether it was true or not. Nobody will be able to know, because Tesla was the one who gave this as a saying. So we are not certain. This was just like a case, and that's why we are saying this is still an really ongoing issue. And it's really interesting to see how this whole thing will develop in future, having in mind that autopilots as such, when it comes to planes, is not a big problem, because the planes as such function in a very different way. So they have one destination to another destination, and it's much more different. But when it comes to cars, it's a little bit tricky. You are on the road, you have to think of the controlling of the traffic, because the traffic is not controlled like the way it's controlled with the planes. So this is a little bit much more trickier question when it comes to control of the roads. Another thing that is faced in Germany is because use of these autopilots. Germany, I don't know how many of you are aware, but Germany doesn't have speed limits on highways. So that is one of the really biggest questions that Germany has at the moment. So when you are allowed to drive 250 on a highway, and also you have a speed line which is allowed to drive 100 on a highway, like how the autopilot will be able to switch. So it's really interesting to see how this whole thing will be covered up in future, having in mind that at this point it's really still an ongoing topic, and it's really still an ongoing issue. So I guess we just have to wait and see how they will discuss in future. The other thing about the privacy issues is that, as I mentioned, the cars as such, especially the vehicles, are collecting a lot of data, and those data are not only like personal data, but they are also data when it comes to taking you from one place to another place and controlling your behavior. So the cars as such are able to pick up a location, like by saying them a location, okay, take me to the nearest restaurant or take me to my favorite place. They are the ones who are in a way choosing for you. So sometimes, or better said, not sometimes, but it's really going thing that as most of the companies are able to do unpaid ads for like sponsored ads, there are a lot of misleading when it comes to what is your favorite restaurant, because at the end the car is the one choosing for you, and the car which will choose according to the sponsored ads as such. So also the car collects data of your typical day, like which is your home address, which is your work address, which is your restaurant address, like how you behave during the day, where you go, what are the places that you visit. All these data are collected from a system in the car, because the car is having the data. The real question is what happens to that data. That data has to be controlled somehow, because it can be really misused if it enters in the wrong hands. So one of the biggest problems when it comes to the privacy is how to be able to control that, and who is the one, where shall it be collected, and who is the one who is collecting the data. So that was one of the reasons, and one of the things why GDPR was brought in European Union. That's a regulation that covers the data privacy of the general data privacy regulation, and it covers a lot of privacy issues, not only when it comes to cars, but also to every other collection of data. The whole thing is that there should be a controlling of the data, because the data cannot or shall not be the one who is gonna end in a really, really bad hands. One of the biggest problems is also the cyber attacks that might happen because of it. So the controlling of the data is the one who is going to be taken out, and it says that it has to be the one, it has to be taken and kept in place in the right way, or in the right hands, let's call it like that. So the whole thing is that when you collect the data, according to the GDPR, you are not allowed to use it for every type of purposes. It's really regulated how the controlling shall go. That's the first thing. And the second thing, there are also like DPOs, those are data protection officers, who are controlling who are actually doing the job of controlling data, or if it's collected in the right way, if it's stored in the right way, whether the person who is collecting the data is actually authorized to collect the data, whether the person who is actually having the access to the data is how that person is treating the data. Because the biggest thing is, if that data gets sold, somebody can see or can have access to your data and can do or misuse your data for doing some harm to you. Like nobody knows how bad it can go. Better said, there are really worst case scenarios and nobody would like to consider it. So that is one of the reasons why this is a really, really huge topic that everybody's talking about. Of course, GDPR as such is not something that is just for cars, as I said earlier. So I believe that when the autonomous cars and are going to have much bigger impact around European Union, and not only European Union, but around the world, these laws will get changed in direction that we will have much more clear how the data have to be transferred and how the data will be collected, who is going to be the one who is going to control that data. And it's going to be, I believe it's not going to be only the owners, because the owners as such don't have that option to control their own data. So I believe that in future it will be discussed even in that way, that maybe the owner should be the one who is going to have that option to control its own data. Maybe the systems will function differently. Currently those are cloud systems, so it's really complicated to connect all those all these informations in one place. So yeah, those are the two actual topics that I wanted to discuss. So I will be really, really happy to answer your questions. I don't know if you have any when it comes to this.
So I have a question from Vignesh. So he's asking, like, let us say electric vehicles are picking up. There's a lot of politics in the petrol business as well. So many countries which own petroleum companies, huge amount of petroleum resources. How will they react to electric vehicle and the new concept of driverless vehicles? Your thoughts on that?
Yes, thank you for your question. Well, the thing is that, as you said, like a lot of countries have a lot of investments when it comes to petrol, but currently Europe as such is really pushing pushing its way to electronic vehicles to be the first type of vehicles that are going to come around. They are building up a lot of stations, like electronic stations. I believe one of the reasons for it is not only about the petrol, but it's also about the environment. Like Germany is one of the countries that is really concerned when it comes to environment, and like having class pollution, like putting pollution on almost zero, and clean the environment as such. So for them, having the electric cars as such is one of the best solutions. They are even considering to build up to a level to have like that. That's one of the reasons why I even mentioned to you that the German manufacturers are now transferring from being from using like these diesels or petrol cars to electric cars. The reason is that they are aware that Germany as such is pushing in a way that this should be the new type of cars that will be placed on the roads, and that it's much healthier, let's call it like that. So for them, I believe it's not going to be a big problem to switch. Unfortunately, I cannot say for other countries like Qatar or these big petrol, like not only petrol, but like Nigeria and these countries that are having oils and petrols. I believe for them it's really bad. But in a way, for European countries, they are really pushing themselves to come to that, to these electric cars, and to be like less pollution and much cleaner environment. At least Germans are really into it.
Another question to you, Angela. So, is all driverless cars associated only with electric, not cars, vehicles associated only with electric engines?
Most of them, yes. I don't. So far, we haven't had any cases when it comes not to electric cars. So, autonomous cars are mostly connected to electric cars. Better said, I think only Tesla for now is using it. I'm not sure if there's any other manufacturer that has this type. That's why I even mentioned that it was Tesla accidents, both of them, because at this point I believe that's something that is really connected to this manufacturer. Probably in future all of them will start using it, but it will be just in a different way and in a different development.
Once again, on behalf of our institutions, both our institutions, I would like to thank you, Angela, for spending your valuable time and giving your thoughtful inputs about how the laws are going to be in the future for electric vehicles and driverless vehicles. So thank you very much, Angela, for joining with us.
Thank you, Joshua.
It now gives me immense pleasure to introduce to all of you the next speaker of today, Hari Krishna. He's the Managing Director of Eco Green Industries. He's graduated in MBA in Power Management from University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Dehradun. He has 8 years of experience in designing and executing solar power projects, 2 years in teaching and as guest faculties various institutions. So he's worked in, he's a part of many companies such as Eco Green Industries, Nano Solar, Union Corporations of India. He has published India Revolution 4.0 and MSME Sectoral Contribution in India, published in Federation of Telangana, Chambers of Commerce and Industries. So he has done many certifications. He has certification in uranium, mine electrical foreman from Uranium Corporation of India. With this, it gives me great pleasure to have you with us today, sir. The session is yours.
And the charging infrastructure ties, because basically we are involved in this charging infrastructure. EPC contracting works in that one. So we're going to talk about it. And next thing is the glance at the policy point of view. Okay, so how the government is supporting and what kind of incentives are providing it up. Okay, so and how the states are taking it to the next level. All these things we are going to talk about it. Okay, so this is what every person will ask you questions like, how many of you are using electrical vehicles? This is only the question for yourself. Okay, so if you have anything, you can put it in the chat box, please. Okay, so a lot of people are attending the sessions, and how many people are using the electrical vehicles? Hardly very few people will be using it up. And how are you charging your electrical vehicles? Whether you are charging it in your household or you are charging it in some kind of a charging stations and all. Okay, so you have to answer to that one. So how you're doing that one, that's the answer is to yourself. And in the end of the session, we are going to ask all the things, repeat the same things in that, and we are going to try to find a solution for it. Okay, and next thing is that how much time it will take for the full charge. Okay, so the biggest problem with all these charging stations or whatever the charges which is given to you, the biggest problem is what's the time taken for it, because we don't have a time for it, right? And next thing, what is the problem with these electrical vehicles when it comes to some problematic situations like batteries, when it comes to the noiseless electrical vehicle rating, because you don't know whether the vehicle has been started or not. Okay, so what are the safety aspects of that one? So person who is owning an electrical vehicle, okay, so is going to share this kind of an experience at the end of the session. Okay, so keep these questions for yourself, and we are going to ask the same things in the end of the session. And if anyone is interested, you are going to answer to these questions in that. Okay, so let's quickly enter into this stuff. I hope Ms. Yasmin also had talked about it. We have to control the temperature. So basically my point is also the same thing. So we had a Paris Treaty Agreement. So in that one, we have committed for the 2 degrees temperature decrease by the end of the year 2030. So all these things, whatever we are going to do it up, like electrical vehicles, electrical vehicle charging stations, solar power plants, wind power plants. Okay, so biogas power generations, and even energy efficiency point of view. Okay, so whatever all these topics are there, everything is to reduce the temperature, because everybody knows you're in Tamil Nadu, most of the people are in Tamil Nadu and Chennai, you know how it will be in the summer point of time. Okay, so we have to reduce our temperature so that in order to preserve our nature. So that's the main point over here. And next quickly, so these are the segments. Okay, so when you talk about this Paris Agreement Treaty and what are the things in that one, so these are the segments which have been taken for the safeguarding of our environment. So water preservation point of view, afforestation will be coming with the forestry. Buildings is nothing but the green building point of view, right? How efficiently you are building your, constructing your house so that you can use less amount of power and you're working on it, right? So energy efficiency, already existing things, how you are converting to energy efficient one. Just for this point of thing is LEDs, you can consider it as that one. And next thing is energy. Okay, so energy generation till the distribution point of view, how efficiently you are doing it up. That is also one of the segment. Next thing is renewables, solar, wind energy, and bagasse points of view. So those are the renewables. Next thing is transportation point of view. Like you have, okay, so metro rails and all the things are there, but how it is powered and how we are going to reduce the dependency on the power supply over there. Okay, so next thing is the waste. Of course, everybody knows about it. Waste will be the very huge one. Every day we are throwing the waste in somewhere, and all these municipalities will come and pick it up where they are going to dump it. Whether you are going to use the same thing for the power generation point of view or use it for some other activities. Okay, so these are all the segments which are a part of the Indian National Action Plan for Climatic Change, which is called as NAPCC. Okay, so this is about all the segments. Okay, so right, so global EV market, we are going to see a small picture. Of course, a lot of people have already talked about it. Just have a peek of that one. Okay, so the global EV market is picking up in a faster way, but we are a little bit of a late growers. We are picking it up in a little slower way here. Okay, so one more thing is that, of course, electric vehicles in India. Okay, so my hot favorite Hyundai Kona is on the top, because I can travel almost 450 kilometers on a single charge. Okay, so which is in India right now, and there is also one more one which is yet to be launched, which will be traveling around 600 plus kilometers. Okay, so you can see the pricing of this one. So why I'm asking to see the pricing is because basically we are all business people. Okay, so when I talk about anything, any technology or anything, I have to think in the price point of view. One is the technology. Second thing is the quality, safety, and main and foremost thing is the price point. If you can see this, electric vehicles. Okay, so what is the pricing of these electrical vehicles? And if you want to compare this pricing it to your normal, okay, so ICE engine based vehicles, okay, you'll understand the point. Okay, so next thing I'm going to show you is that, okay, so what are the electrical vehicles? Of course, even Angela also talked about this one, hybrid electric vehicles. Okay, so hybrid is nothing but combination of two sources of fuel. Okay, so one may be hydrogen based and as well as electricity based or battery based. Okay, so it can be anything, two sources of fuel. And next thing is plug-in, is nothing but plugging into the socket where you are going to charge the battery by plugging in, or it can be charged on the go also by using another source of fuel. So next thing is the biggest one where we are focusing right now. Most of the companies, manufacturing companies are focusing on is the fully battery-based electrical vehicles. Those are called as a BEVs. Okay, so it doesn't require any other source of fuel, completely running on the batteries. Once you charge the battery, it will be running continuously. Okay, so the biggest problem is also, we are going to discuss about this one. What is a problematic situation for the battery-based electrical vehicles? Okay, then so next thing is, of course, Miss Yasmin also talked about it. The cost of running is very less. Okay, so I taken a simple example, a small calculation, so that everybody can see that one, how you are going to get benefit out of it. I'm not talking about the servicing point of view. It's only the mileage point of view. You can talk about Mahindra E2O model, which has a battery capacity of 16 kilowatt hour. That's full capacity. Okay, so but remember, you will not discharge 16 kilowatt hour battery. Okay, right? And the mileage, as per the manufacturer data sheet, he's going to give it as commitment for the 120 kilometers it will be running on normal roads. Okay, and next thing is how many units it will consume, because we are charging it with electricity. Okay, so how many units it will take? It's a battery capacity 16 kilowatt hour. Obviously, it will take 16 units. And what is the charges? Because you are charging, so DISCOM is nothing but your electricity supply companies will be charging some amount. Okay, for the most of the states, the starting price is 6 rupees, and in some states it is 7 rupees too. So I have taken the least one, 6 rupees per unit rate, 96 rupees for 120 kilometers. Okay, so when you compare it kilowatt hour, okay, with the vehicle point of view, I mean with the petrol point of view, okay, so per kilometer, okay, how much you are going to save it? Okay, you can see in the blue screen for the 120 kilometers range, how much it is going to cost you. Okay, so based on this, you can compare, okay, which is beneficial, either petrol based or okay, electrical vehicle. Okay, so you can tell it to a lot of people also. You can show this as a small example and you can tell them. And one beauty of this one is, if your battery capacity, okay, so is increased, like for a smaller battery capacity, if you are going to get a more mileage, then your price will come down. Okay, even for 1 rupee, 2 rupee also, you are going to run for 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers range. Okay, so that is why everybody are focusing more on the battery technologies. Okay, so charge at a single time and you can run it for a longer duration of time. Okay, so one day charging, you can go for 400, 500, 600 kilometers, which will be fetching you all your daily needs. Okay, so done. You are going to save your petrol and you are going to save the nature. Okay, so this is a small example. You can construct based on this with the other vehicles also. And next thing is the policy point of view. Of course, a lot of things are happened already. So what is this policy and all? Okay, so right, in 2011 itself, we have started this electric mobility plan. But in 2013, it actually got implemented, NEMMP. Okay, so and after that, they have given some targets, like what should be the target for 2020. They said that, okay, 6 to 7 million electrical vehicles and as well as the hybrid electrical vehicles have to be sold in the market. Okay, so that has given a vision for that one. 2013, they have set a layout, and in 2015, the actual implementation started place. Okay, so 2015 it started place, but exact execution started in 2016. 16 to 18 was the time duration for it. Okay, so the first phase of it, which is called as a FAME policy. Of course, they already briefed about it. Okay, so faster adoption for the manufacturing of hybrid and electrical vehicles. Okay, so 2016 to 18 was a time duration for it, but it got extended for 1 year due to small glitch, because conversion of BS4 vehicles to BS6 vehicles, that was the biggest setback for all the automobile industry. Okay, so they have to shift their manufacturing capabilities to BS4 to BS6 norms, and at the same time, you have pushed it for the electrical vehicles. Yes, you have to do these norms also. So that has become a little bit of glitch in automobile industry too. That was a setback, little bit of coming down, of course, apart from other global factors, or whatever the Indian situation is considered. Okay, so this is one of the reasons here. Okay, so after that, what happened? All these electrical vehicles which are already launched, which is launched by Maruti Ciaz is there, and as well as Mahindra Scorpio. Okay, so there are small electrical vehicles, hybrid vehicles which are launched. They have got it picking up, and they have seen the biggest movement at that time. Okay, and after that, of course, each and every state had come with their electrical vehicle policy. Okay, so like Karnataka is the first one, and after that, Delhi is also one of them. Maharashtra is there, Telangana is there, even Tamil Nadu is also there. All these states have come up with a specific policy in their state to boost up the manufacturing capabilities, adoption point of view, basically I mean to say supply and demand chain management. Okay, so which will also internally boost the jobs unemployment point of view also. Okay, so this is just a brief, and if you want to see the incentives which are given by the government point of view, right? Okay, So at the starting of this FAME policy, the GST on these all the vehicles and components was around 12%. Okay, so 18% basically. From there, it has been reduced to 12%, and now 5% GST. And after that, any person who is purchasing an electrical vehicle, okay, so which is an authorized electrical vehicle. There are some unauthorized electrical vehicles which are non-registered with RI also are available in the market. Please be careful. Which are registered with RI certified modules, you are going to get 1.5 lakhs of tax exemptions. Whatever your GST, I mean, whatever your IT returns you are going to file. Okay, so 1.5 lakhs exemption is there. And FAME 1 policy has ended up in 2019, and from 2019, which is the starting station for the FAME 2 policy, you can see this one almost 10,000 crores had been allotted for it. Okay, so in that one, a lot of incentives. Two-wheelers, how much you are going to get it up. For four-wheelers, how much you are going to get it up. You can see on the left-hand side, right-hand side. Okay, but there is a limitation. Each and every two-wheeler you purchase is not eligible for subsidy. Okay, there is a price tag and there is a power tag. Okay, so each and every four-wheelers or even buses or even trucks, okay, there is a price tag and power tag is there. If it is matching those price and power details, then only you are going to get this subsidy. Suppose if I purchase Hyundai Kona, I want subsidy of this one, I want 5 lakhs. I won't get any kind of a subsidy because it is more than 15 lakhs. Hyundai Kona is costing me more than 20 lakhs. Okay, so this doesn't form into this subsidy point of view. So I'm not going to benefit out of it. Okay, so please ensure whenever you are going to opt for these subsidies and benefits, please make sure RI certification should be there and it should be within the range. Okay, so right, that's just a glance of this one. Okay, you can see the FAME policy, how it is, okay, so how it has been implemented in the phase 1 and the phase 2. Phase 2 is in 2019 and phase 2, they have identified few things. Okay, so not only giving incentives to the people, but also they have to concentrate on demand and supply chain management and the electrical vehicle charging infrastructure side too. Okay, so they have made 3 main segments. Demand incentives, nothing but if you are purchasing something, I'm going to give you some other things. Apart from these incentives, you are going to get road tax exemptions. Okay, so right, some other things are there. Each and every state has different set of things. Okay, so another incentives to boost up. Next thing is charging stations. Biggest thing is the charging stations, because if I ride a petrol vehicle, IC engine vehicle, even if I go for 3-4 kilometers or 10 kilometers, I know the petrol bunk is there. Okay, so what about the charging stations? Okay, so if I go for 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, if I don't get any kind of a charging stations, then I'll be got struck. Okay, so then they started increasing these charging stations in that phase itself. Okay, so next thing is, okay, so public scheme and IEC activities is nothing but set of rules and guidelines. Charging stations are there, chargers are there, all these things, but you have to follow certain rules, norms, and guidelines. Okay, without this IEC certificate, basically it is nothing but an electro-technical commission. Okay, so which is nothing but a set of guidelines you have to follow for each and every stage of manufacturing, or even for the execution point of view, or for the testing point of view. You have to follow certain norms. Just like for you guys, people who have studied the BTech, you have a certificate of BTech completion certificate, degree certificate is there. So this is also the same thing. It says that yes, IEC certificate is there. Okay, so it is following the standards, and I'm going to buy it. Okay, so that's a major reason for this. You can see the small amount of incentives or how this okay, technical committee has taken into the situations. You can see this one. Okay, so all these electrical vehicles. Okay, so who is going to form the regulations? Okay, so whatever the thing is there, like charging stations, when you talk about it. Okay, how much power capacity of charging stations? What are the standards? Okay, what should be its harmonics? Harmonics will generally arise because each and every charging station DC to AC conversion is happening here. Okay, so in that case, what should be the harmonics and what should be the voltage fluctuations? Okay, all these things will come into picture. Who is going to take care of it? CEA, nothing but Central Electricity Authority. Okay, so go to their website, download all these documents. Okay, so which is a EV policy is there. So download it and see what are the things in that one. Okay, so if you want to set up any kind of a charging station, there are set of rules and guidelines. You cannot blindly put anywhere whatever I want. Of course, you have a provision for that one. But whenever you are collecting this into the electricity grid, you have to follow some rules and guidelines. Okay, so what are the safety standards are also specified in CEA. There's nothing but whenever you are connecting, of course, small charging station is there, you have to connect it to 230 volt. And charger should be above 800 mm from the ground level. And charger should be compatible with less than 120 volts of output to the electric vehicle. So there are some safety requirements. It had to follow it. Okay. So, and next thing is the standards. Okay, so each and every charger, okay, so and charging station will follow some guidelines. Okay, so 61851, which basically tells that how you have to install the charging station. What are the basic requirements? What are the guidelines for it? Okay, so all these things will be specified. Okay, so it's starting from the power requirement to the what kind of a cable you have to use. Okay, and cable should be of what quality, and all the things you have to use it here. Okay, so due to the time lag, I'm not explaining in detail in all these things, but of course, if you have any other session which is organized by them, okay, so we are going to talk about in detail about these things. Okay, so what are the connectors we are going to talk about? Charging stations, all the things have IEC tag on it. So follow the IEC tags. Okay, so right, next thing is the communication point of view. When you talk about the electrical vehicle to the charging station, it had to know certain things, right? But the battery is charged, fully charged, or what is the percentage of charge? Now, what kind of a charging I have to give, whether it is a boost charge or floating charge, okay, so or a trickle charging, what kind of a charging I have to give it up, and what should be your display, okay, either it may be your mobile display or it may be your electrical display inside the electrical vehicle. Okay, so what are the standards to be followed for that one? And next thing comes with the communication point of view. When you are communicating with your vehicle, what are the voltage standards? Because whenever the communication is there, anything is there, it's only the voltage and current and as well as the signals point of view. What is the frequency of the signals? Okay, so we have to follow these standards. Okay, so slow, fast, medium charging, and one more thing is the flash charging. I'll show you in a glance how it looks like. Okay, so these are the standards. Okay, so if you want a copy of that one, this will be available in CEA website, Central Electricity Authority. You can download all these guidelines. Okay, this is a huge book. Okay, so this is not a 5-page or a 6-page document. It's a very lengthy book. You have to go through all these things. Okay, so that's a very beautiful concept. Okay, so next thing is the testing and verification. Okay, so I told you, right, RI. Okay, so right, so whenever you have a vehicle that should be certified by RI. Okay, so you have one condition: two-wheelers or even electric bicycles. Okay, so which are not certified by RI should have a speed limit less than 30 kilometers per hour. Okay, so that was one regulation. Okay, so whenever you are purchasing any vehicle, okay, see this RI certificate is there or not, and what are the conditions for it. Okay, so RI certificate is not like, yeah, I have RI certificate, I can purchase anyone. Okay, so look into it. That is going to crack your minds, because once you deep dive it, you will have a lot of concept in that one. Okay, so RI looks very simple on a certificate, but when you go to deep, you have a lot of things in this thing. Okay, so and next thing is, once you set up a charging station, who are the persons who are going to come and visit? Because you are connecting it to the local grid, the electricity department people, or nothing but the DISCOMs are going to come and see and inspect all the things. Okay, so they are going to give you a certificate. Yes, this is as per the norms. Then your charging station installation will be completed. Until then, you have to wait. Okay, so and what are the voltage levels to connect it also? It will be specified: 230 volts, 440, 11 kV, 33 kV. Okay, so as per these guidelines which are given by the CEA, and also you can see this one in DHA, Department of Heavy Industries. Okay, so in that website also you can see this stuff. Okay, so whenever you are installing a charging station, there are some things which is called as, where should I place my charging station? Okay, location of the charging stations is your will and wish, but only thing you have to see it as, one charging station is there within the 3 kilometers radius. You should not install another charging station of same specifications. Okay, you can use another specs, not a problem, but you should not use with the same specs. Okay, when you are riding on the highway, that should be 25 kilometers within the 2 charging stations. Okay, so right, so you have to follow these guidelines whenever you are setting it up. And basically, one point, whenever you are setting any charging station, okay, it should be visible to everyone, and you should have electrical infrastructure available, 240 volts or 450 volts, or it may be 11 kV or 33 kV. If these electricity lines are nearby you, then only go for the application. Okay, so the application is also available in your local DISCOM websites, and in TEDA also it is available. Okay, so download that form, fill it, and if you want to install any charging station, give it to the DISCOM people first, then it will process automatically on you. Okay, so of course that is not that easy, whatever I'm saying, because we also faced. Okay, so that will take a little longer time. Okay, so right, and this is of things which is the policy which is stated by the government. Okay, so first phase and second phase they have divided it. Okay, starting from 2019 onwards, PCI is nothing but public charging stations, public charging infrastructure. Okay, what is my focus area first? Mega cities. Okay, so first they are focusing on mega cities. They are going to set up the charging stations with their own funding, and as well as some public funding is also available here, right? So with that funding, they are going to test it in the mega cities in a few locations, and based on the study of that one, how they are going to participate and how they are reacting. Okay, so next thing is it is going to implemented in small areas, like it may be state capitals, or it may be your rural areas and semi-urban areas. All these things they are going to talk about it here. Okay, so first phase is already implementing. So people who want to do the business, now you have to target with this, the second phase. Okay, so people who are in the business field. Okay, so you can have your employment opportunities in your own village also. Okay, so right. So this is what the thing, mega cities first target. Next thing is small capitals, and as well as the urban areas, semi-urban and rural areas are the things. Okay, so I'm just going to take a glance of Karnataka EV policy. Of course, because Tamil Nadu policy is also there, but there are some, here and there some things are there which are demand and supply management point of view. Some points are not yet clear. Okay, so I'm going to show you this Karnataka policy, just a brief. Okay, so these are the incentives for the demand side. Basically, if you are setting up a charging stations and all, okay, so what kind of incentives you are going to get it up on the right side, you can see it up. Okay, so and they have also planned, just like Tamil Nadu had planned for the 10,000 EVs, Karnataka also planned for the same thing. By 2030, they are saying it will become 100% electric. 100% vehicles will be running on the electricity. Okay, so we have to wait and watch because due to the COVID impact point of view. Okay, and remember one thing, people who are purchasing 3-wheelers, okay, make sure that your state allows running of 3-wheelers in your city. Okay, because some of the national highways are there where the movement of slow moving vehicles are not allowed. Okay, so please make sure whenever you are purchasing this one, if your state or if your city has this policy, please ensure with the local people at the time of purchase itself. Okay, so that is also one of the problem with the Bangalore. Slow moving vehicles or the small autos should not be running on the national highways in Bangalore. Okay, so please make sure that your state doesn't have this concept here. Okay, so right. And next thing is that supply side incentives. Okay, so like whenever you want to establish any kind of a manufacturing plant or you want to establish a servicing plant, what are the incentives which are provided by the government? Apart from the incentives, if you want to set up anything, they are going to give you funding also. Okay, so like EESL is there. They have a good amount of what you can say business model. Okay, suppose you have an open land which is near to your highway or near to the airports. If you have a land and it is not used at all, you can give it to EESL for a rental basis. They are going to set up a charging station. They are going to maintain on their own. Okay, so this is a policy which I also worked with them in Telangana, but due to COVID, we are facing a shortfall. But yes, they are working all over India level. Okay, so empty lands, empty plots which are near to the highways or which are near to the roads where the electrical infrastructure is there. Okay, you can directly approach EESL, Energy Efficient Services Limited, in your area and ask them, so I have an open land, will you be interested to set up any charging station in that? Okay, so don't take for 100 yards is there, 200 yards area is there, I'll set up a charging station. You should have huge amount of space, at least for a period of half acre is there. Yes, we are going to do that one. Okay, so this is a kind of an incentives, how they are going to give it up, how much funding they are going to give it up. Like, okay, so this is a small thing. Okay, and next thing is the main topic. Okay, so we are going to quickly finish it off because I hope I have taken it as a lot much of time here. So first thing is charging infrastructure. When you talk about the charging infrastructure, two things here. People maybe as a business people or a normal consumer also, we have to talk about as a charging point of view. Next thing is the swapping. Okay, so charging means you can charge your vehicle. Okay, so whether it may be AC charging or the DC charging, two things are there. I'll show you the pic, how it looks like onboard charger and offboard charger, meaning is, okay, so next thing is battery swapping. Okay, so just like you have your cylinders, gas cylinders in your house, right? Each and every 1 or 2 months, they will come and they replace that cylinder. Okay, so you are the owner of the cylinder, but not in a particular cylinder. They will come and replace each and every time. So this is also the same thing, battery swapping. Okay, so you can go to any swapping station. Fastly, they will remove the battery, then replace with the other batteries. Because the charging, if you think that it takes time, okay, so it doesn't support fast charging. Okay, your electrical vehicle doesn't support fast charging or a flash charging. You have to go for the battery swapping models. Change it on the way very fastly, and you can go for the longer time. Okay, so two models are there, and one thing is that recently government has approved, even the cabinet has approved one thing: electrical vehicles without batteries. Okay, sale of electrical vehicles without batteries has been approved by the cabinet. Okay, so we are waiting for the bill to pass. Once it is passes, you can purchase any vehicle, okay, without batteries, because battery will occupy 40 to 60% of the cost of the vehicle. Okay, and you can customize your battery, okay, and you can install the battery on your own, or you can take it on a lease basis also, the batteries. Okay, so right, so this is the point. One is charging, next thing is swapping. Okay, so onboard charging is nothing but, you can see this one, DC to AC conversion will happen inside the vehicle. That is the meaning of onboard charger. Okay, okay, so right, offboard charger means the charging station will supply DC power supply directly into your battery. Okay, so there is a difference between these two. Onboard means the DC to AC conversion is happening inside the vehicle. That is the main difference between this onboard and offboard charger. Basically, you can say that one DC charger or AC charger, simply. Okay, so right, so these are the types of chargers. Okay, slow charger, fast charger, and rapid chargers. Okay, so right, so these are the power capacities for each and every charger. Slow chargers are nothing but where you can install in your house also, and in small apartments or small places, which is a very small equipment, which doesn't even take 1 meter by 1 meter area also. You can install, you can do your business on your own. That's not a big deal. And it is available less than 60,000 rupees. These are all there. Everything, including the infrastructure, will cost you less than 60,000 rupees. You can install and you can enjoy. Okay, and next thing is a little bit of fast chargers. These have to be placed where the electrical infrastructure is good, where you are going to use 440 volts line here, because 7 kilowatt will come into 440 volts line. Okay, so you're going to set up for the 4-wheelers or 3-wheelers, slightly higher capacity modules here. Okay, so which will take around 3 to 4 hours, sometimes 5 to 6 hours of charging duration. Next thing is the rapid chargers, which is a very huge network. Okay, fast charging within half an hour or within 60 minutes, you are going to charge your electrical vehicle. Okay, fast chargers, you definitely need 11 kV lines. Okay, so rapid chargers 11 kV lines, fast chargers 440 volts lines, slow chargers you need only 230 or 240 volt lines. Okay, so this is the main difference between all these things. Next thing is how the socket looks like. Okay, so this is the look of the socket. Okay, so electrical vehicle chargers looking will be in this fashion. Okay, so there are a lot of standards. Okay, so you can see this Japanese standard. Okay, you can see the European, German, even Chinese standards also you can see over here. Okay, so these are all lot of standards which are available in the market. Okay, so looking into all these things, okay, so which one do I have to take? Okay, just like your mobile, if your charger pin is compatible with your mobile only, you can charge. So these are all the vehicles which come with the compatible chargers. So you have to see which is a compatible charger over here. Okay, so for this thing, all these models, okay, Government of India has come up with one thing. Okay, so you can use these chargers. One is a CCS. Okay, so combined charger. Next thing is CHAdeMO, which is a Japanese charger. Next thing is Type 2. And the last one, which is called as a Made in India concept, Bharat AC and DC chargers. This is for the slow charging and the fast charging. Voltage levels and how many chargers you have to set up is the minimum requirement. Okay, so anybody who is interested to set up a business, okay, so near to the highways or on the highway roads, which is a public charging infrastructure, very big setup, you have to follow these guidelines. Or if you want to, if you don't have any money, if you are financially, you are not strong and you want to set up only the small chargers, that is your wish. Okay, provided one condition, within 3 kilometers to 3 kilometers radius, you should not use the same technology. That's only the one condition over here. Okay, so this is how it looks like, the charger. Okay, so there is a LED bar status which is there on the top, where it will show you whether the charger is working or not. Okay, so just like your TV power button is on or not, it will show you the screen. VFD screen will show you, okay, so what is the power consumption, how much duration, how much time period and all, it will show you in this stuff. Next thing is RFID tag. Basically, all these chargers will come with a swipe, okay, or a tag. Okay, so whenever you place that one on this RFID tag, then only it will start charging your vehicle. Once your charging is completed, again, you have to put it on that one RFID tag, it will stop charging. Okay, so it is automatic on this one. Next thing is plug holder, of course, for keeping that charger. Power cord, which is water cooled or a liquid cooled one. Water cooled is not allowed as of now. Liquid cooled, which is basically silicone cooling, is available as of now. Okay, so next thing is access panel on all the things which are available in this here. Okay, for the business people, making of this frame or outer bodies and getting the electronic components is a good business model. Okay, so if anybody is interested in this one segment, yes, a lot of electrical vehicle charging station charger manufacturers are there, but they require this setup. One is outer body, outer frame, which can be compatible with them, and as well as the electronic components which are included in this. Okay, so right. So this is how the charging station in Bangalore at the time of working, people were working. So it looks like this. Okay, you can see that right hand side, the small box, small dabba is there. There is a 25 kilowatt charger. Okay, and left hand side, you can see this one, that is 50 kVA chargers. These are the fast chargers. Okay, so this is just similar to your petrol bunk where the vehicle will come and it will go on the same fashion. Okay, so it looks like this, one charger with multiple charging guns, whichever is compatible with your vehicle at the time of purchase of the vehicle. Basically, I'm talking about four-wheelers, because two-wheelers, it will automatically come where you'll be charging in your household itself. Three-wheelers also, same thing, compatible ones are there, but four-wheelers, please ensure what type of charger it is going to support it. Okay, so this is one looks like, and the latest charging technologies, which we talk about the small things. Next thing is the next advanced level, which are already there in the abroad countries, wireless chargers. Okay, so Tesla is one of the models which is already using this one. Next thing is on-the-go chargers, which is nothing but just like your metro rail. On the top of this one, Pentagon will be there. It will be charging and it will be running on that one. So these roads are constructed where you have overhead lines. Whenever your vehicle is going, okay, so your pantograph will join those lines and it will start charging on the go. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers of line, so you don't need to stop anywhere. Charge it and on the go. Okay, so next thing is flash charging, which is in India by 2023. ABB has said that yes, they are going to launch it. I don't know, the time frame might be delayed as of now, but yes, the prototype is done and already it is in a, okay, so they are testing it. Okay, within less than 30 seconds of time, they are going to charge the heavy bus. Okay, whatever the bus stations are there, the first thing they are going to do it in Pune, I guess. Okay, so Pune to Mumbai highway is there. So there they are doing it up. Okay, whenever the bus comes in a bus bus station, it will be there for at least for 30 seconds to 1 minute. At that time itself, this bus will be charged from the supply. Less than 30 seconds, the entire capacity of the bus will be charged. That is an awesome technology. You can see the video of this one, ABB and Ashok Leyland flash charging. Less than 30 seconds, automatic. Okay, so this is the one. And the people, because basically I'm a business person, so I have to talk about the business point of view here. So this is the one, if anybody wants to do the business and all the things, right? So even for the job point of view also, which is a priority segment, you can choose there and enter into that field. Because it just started in India. We are a little bit late groomers. Okay, so battery is the first and foremost priority for your jobs point of view and all. Even Tamil Nadu has got 3 battery manufacturing stuff. One is started by the Ather, which is still under construction. Then one more thing is by Saudi company. I hope that is Housan or something is there. Next thing is by BHEL. Okay, so these 3 are the companies, lithium ion battery manufacturing. I don't know the capacities, but BHEL capacity is very huge. Okay, so that is very big capacity. So get started with it in your lone locality itself. You are going to get these manufacturing plants. So jobs are plenty, but be ready for it. They need the right candidate. Okay.
Today's next guest speaker, Mr. Azhar Ahmed, is an experienced team lead who has demonstrated working with EV development and edutech industry, the skilled in techno management and product management, strong technology professional focus on mechatronics, robotics, and automation approach. He has co-founded Bharat Mobi, an EV startup offering EV conversion kits and services, now contributing to skill development, and is the director for Skillshare. He has created a formula for students for utility electric vehicles. He holds research experience in renewable energy and e-mobility sector. He's an EV expert and has spoken in many institutions such as NITs and IITs, represented India and EV sector for various conferences and conclaves across the globe. He has mentored people in renewable and mobility solution startups. He is a technical inspector for technology events. So it gives us great pleasure to have you with us. Sir, the session is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Joshua, for nice introduction. Very good evening to all. I hope everyone is doing well and safe. So, Joshua, can you please enable my screen sharing for Skill Development India?
Yes, sir. The access has been good.
Skill Development India. Please give it for Skill Development India.
Okay, 1 minute, sir.
Yeah. So, as Joshua introduced, so we are into conversion of existing petrol diesel cars into electric. So with
Sir,
regards
the
to
access has
that,
been given, sir. The access has been given to
yeah.
still.
All right, all right. So we are into conversion of existing petrol diesel cars into electric. That's nothing but retrofitting. And before starting my session, I would like to thank both the organizations for giving us opportunity to reflect upon EV policies and how e-mobility will flourish in India. So yeah, if you look at today's scenario in India and present level of automotive industry in India, automotive industry in India is the fourth largest in the world, having annual turnover of around $100 billion and employing about 32 million people. And if you look at two-wheeler industry and tractor manufacturing, so we are doing very well in these segments, and our automotive industry is contributing a good amount to GDP also. So if you look at overall, so automotive industry is in India is growing, and if you look at how EVs are connected to us, so EVs are connected to us through our transportation system. So if we have a quick look at transportation system, we use transportation system for transportation of people, animals, goods, and all. So whether we are talking about a conventional vehicle transportation system or electric vehicle transportation system, we will be requiring four major elements that are infrastructure, vehicles, operation, and policies. So as we know, there are different modes of transportation: airways, railways, roadways, waterways. And India, so these four are very well known: airways, railways, roadways, waterways. So gradually, each mode of transportation is getting electrified. So that will be having a positive impact on economy, environment, as well as planning. And yeah, so definitely when we are talking about electric transportation system, we will be requiring infrastructure, vehicles, operation, and policies in place. So yeah, as we are aware that electric vehicles, they require electricity for charging, right? So definitely we have to make sure, we have to be very conscious about our energy sector. So we have to invest in our renewable energy sector in a good way, so that we will be able to cater the need or the demand that will emerge because of usage of electric vehicles in coming time. So I will quickly tell you about retrofitting. So why retrofitting or why electric vehicles and all. So when we are talking about electric vehicles, we are having two approaches. Either we can go for retrofitting or we can go for new electric vehicle. So when we are telling about retrofitting, so there are three major problems that our nation is facing: traffic congestion, air pollution, and vehicle scrapping. So if we can, convert few of these vehicles into electric, definitely I agree that EV is the way forward, but retrofitting can be the need of our. All right. So what I mean, if we want to solve traffic congestion, air pollution, scrapping of the vehicle simultaneously, definitely retrofitting can be the best solution. And a fraction of these cars can be converted into electric, and a fraction of the gray area or the pollution can be reduced. So we are aware that there are so many problems happening because of pollution and all. So now we'll have a quick look at how e-mobility in India is flourishing, or how e-mobility in India is developing. So government is supporting e-mobility startup. Government of India is supporting e-mobility startup via different push in budgets and all. Another main point I would like to reflect some of the thoughts from our first speaker, CEO of M-Auto, as she said, unemployment is definitely an issue in our country. Unemployment is definitely an issue, but bigger than that, unemployability is the problem. We don't have a skilled workforce. We don't have people having enough knowledge about electric vehicles. We don't have engineers. See, we have around 10,000 plus engineering institutes in India, but very few of them are getting placed in core industry, and they are getting into the industry that they are actually striving for or looking for. So definitely unemployability is a problem. And if you look at opportunities or career building opportunities in EV sector, Blueprint is ready for 10 million e-mobility jobs. So I'm not telling it from my end. So Government of India has planned to create a specialized workforce to support its electric mobility mission, which will generate around 10 million e-mobility jobs. So this data is available already, the newspaper and even on government portals and all. So another thing, Niti Aayog. So Niti Aayog is pushing electric vehicles to sell only electric vehicles by 2030 via its Niti Aayog's e-mobility plan. And if you look at 2019 budget, so electric two-wheelers were, manufacturing of electric two-wheelers was getting a good support because of, e-mobility push from the government. So as our fellow speakers told about National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, we have different initiatives from Government of India. National Electric Mobility Mission Plan 2020 is there to adopt hybrid and electric vehicles to save the fuel, to reduce the pollution, to create job opportunities. And in order to achieve this National Electric Mobility Mission Plan 2020, government rolled out FAME India, faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles, right, to encourage adoption of electric two-wheelers, e-rickshaws, electric four-wheelers, hybrid four-wheelers, and electric buses. So apart from National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, apart from FAME, we have different industry associations that are pushing electric vehicles. Society of Manufacturers of Electric Vehicles, SIAM is there, LEAD is there, those who are actually pushing electric vehicles so that people will become more aware about EVs and they will adopt electric vehicles. So I would like to convey this point that it's not like electric vehicles, they started in 2007 or 2010, something like that, because around 2010, when Tesla came into the picture, everyone started talking about electric vehicles, everyone was talking about electric vehicles. But EV technology started from year 1835. From that, it evolved into hybrid vehicle fuel cell technology. Then first Prius hybrid vehicle was introduced in Japan, and like that, many developments happened. And now we are at 2020. We are able to see different vehicles. So definitely there are advantages for electric vehicles, environment perspective as well as climate change perspective, and all these things. If you look at the beauty of electric vehicle is operational economics of electric vehicle is very, very convenient. Operational economics of electric vehicle is very, very convenient. And if we see there are no tailpipe emission in electric vehicle, we have to depend on only utility companies for electric vehicle, and the range anxiety can be reduced or can be eliminated using fast charging stations or battery swapping technologies and all. So if we compare electric vehicle and gasoline vehicle, we just need to spend 2 cents per mile for an EV, whereas we need to spend 12 cents per mile for a conventional vehicle. So we have gasoline vehicle. So by introducing electric powertrain into gasoline vehicle, we we made hybrid vehicle by combining motor as well as engine. Then by providing a plug-in facility to hybrid vehicle, we emerged as plug-in hybrid vehicle. Then as a special case of series hybrid vehicle, we have fuel cell vehicle. And a very well-known electric vehicle that is a basic thing that is having battery, motor, controller, no engine, nothing. So there will be different charging technologies as specified by last speaker. So like that, these are different types of electric vehicle. So battery electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, hybrid electric vehicle. Then again hybrid electric vehicle, we have a series hybrid vehicle, parallel hybrid vehicle. So definitely we must have a complete understanding about these different technologies so that we will get a clarity about what are the components are being used in EV, like different batteries, different motors, different controllers and all. So yeah, if you look at global EV market, so global EV market is definitely growing. As India is heading towards e-mobility nation, other countries are also heading towards e-mobility nation. So in India, every state is trying to adopt electric vehicles, try to acquire electric vehicles, and every state is contributing via its own EV policies and different things. So Maharashtra, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, they are doing very well in terms of adopting electric vehicles. So this data I am reflecting till August 2019 as per the EV sales report. So yeah, so if you look at today's time in Indian EV industry, so we have electric bicycles. There are several companies like Hero Electric is there. Then Hulical is there. There are different companies those who are manufacturing electric bicycles. So it's a electric mobility product. Then we have electric scooters. Right? Then we have, like everyone is familiar about a very well-known manufacturer from Bangalore, right? Ather Energy is there. Electric scooters are there. Then electric bikes are there. Electric cars are there. Completely electric cars are there. Then we have hybrid cars, right? Then we have electric rickshaws, and M-Auto is creating a huge impact by introducing retrofitting as well as new EV technology for EV three-wheelers. So then we have mini electric pickup trucks coming out in India. So Ashok Leyland is there. Then different other companies are there that are working. Mahindra is there working on electric pickup trucks. Then we have electric buses, and Bangalore was, heading this transformation of electric buses. Right. Then we have electric tractor. I hope everyone is aware about one startup from Hyderabad, Celestial Mobility, introducing electric tractors in India. Then we have solar electric boat, India's first solar electric boat. I don't know how many of you are aware about India's first solar electric boat. We have it from our Kerala. Its name is Aditya, India's first solar electric boat. So yeah. So now, as a perspective of transforming India through e-mobility, if you look at that perspective, so we are having two approaches. Either we can go for new electric vehicles, we go for retrofitting. So either we are going for retrofitting or new electric vehicles, different EV business propositions will emerge. Right from servicing garage for electric vehicles to charging stations to charging station management, then painting and spraying workshops, electrical workshops for EVs, home charging station setup services, charging station setup training services, then EV rental services like spare parts manufacturing, then EV manufacturing, EV retrofitting, EV battery shops, EV kits, EV car washing, like e-car washing, like battery swapping will be emerging, battery leasing, mobile EV repair services, portable charging stations, solar charging stations, online shops for electric spare parts, online shops for EV reselling, battery scrapping, last mile connectivity, financing companies for EVs, franchise models, insurance companies for EVs, EV skill development. So like that, different business propositions will emerge. So I would like to emphasize on this part that when everyone is telling that we have to adopt electric vehicles, electric three-wheelers, electric two-wheelers, electric cars, retrofitting this, that, the main aspect we have to consider is we need to create EV ecosystem. We need to create EV ecosystem where we will be having complete power generation, renewable energy based power generation. We will be having power management. We will be having charging infrastructure, home charging stations, commercial charging stations, battery swapping stations. Then EV markets, like where we can get the components, we can manufacture the components. Then financing companies financing EVs, insurance companies insuring EVs, because all these things together will create a EV ecosystem where we can have a sustainable model of EV nation. So that's the that's very important thing we need to realize, and we need to act accordingly. Before concluding, my point, I would like to say this thing that so in order to create EV ecosystem, as CEO of Emoto already, ma'am said that definitely we will be requiring skilled workforce. So we need to understand this point very, very clearly that we need to eliminate the skill mismatch, the skill set that people are having in their hand after graduating of, after their university 4 years of degree, mechanical, electrical, electronics, whatever. They are not having the skill set that is feasible for the industry, right? They are not, so we need to eliminate this skill mismatch. So we need to create the EV skilled workforce so that we can grow as a EV nation. So for that purpose, we have to come up with good models. That's how we as a Skill Shark started, in order to eliminate the skill mismatch and in order to spread the EV awareness. And I'm glad to share that in past 40 days, we have trained 500 plus faculties from Pan India and 2000 plus engineering students in this EV technology. So like that, we have to come up with programs for making people aware about EV technology, making people aware about how they can learn about electric vehicles, because whether the engineer or is a businessman, they have to learn about electric vehicles. Another pain point I would like to highlight: in a conventional car or in a conventional vehicle, there will be more than 2000 moving components. Whereas in electric vehicle, there will be only around 20 moving components. So when there are only 20 moving components, we need to understand the need that all those businesses that are happening because of that 1980 components, right? 18 plus or minus you can take. So those components, how those business models or those business propositions will survive. So definitely people have to learn about EV technology. They have to come with different business propositions, and I would like to congratulate Motto for various business propositions that they have created, business on wheels, and then this EV shared mobility and all. So definitely, last mile delivery, logistic, and these verticals will be getting electrified in coming time, and we will be having a great future as a EV nation. By creating a complete EV ecosystem where we are having charging infrastructure, we are having energy generation mechanisms, we are having skilled workforce, all these things together. So yeah, with this thing, I will not take much time because it's already too much time we have taken from our participants. So yeah, we can go ahead with the question and answer. Like if anyone is having any doubt or question, yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, the first question is, can you tell us the difference between an electric car and a plug-in hybrid?
Yeah, so see what happens in hybrid car. I would like to take you to the slide so that you people will understand it in a better way. So when we are talking about a gasoline vehicle, so in gasoline vehicle, there will be a fuel filler through which we are filling the fuel. This fuel is getting stored into the fuel tank. From the fuel tank, we are like pushing it, or we are pumping it with the engine, and engine is generating power and torque that is getting utilized to power the vehicle. So that's simple about gasoline vehicle. When we are talking about hybrid vehicle, we are introducing an electric powertrain that will be having a battery motor controller, and I hope you are able to see my screen. So
Yes.
let me, yeah.
Yeah.
So in my screen, if you are able to see the power electronic control, there is nothing but the motor controller, and here the motor is the electric traction motor and the battery pack. So these battery motor controller will be assisting the engine in order to propel or in order to move the vehicle. So that is about hybrid vehicle. And when we come to plug-in hybrid vehicle, see here in hybrid vehicle we don't have facility to charge this traction battery through external supply. Whereas when we are talking about plug-in hybrid vehicle, we will be having an external charge port to charge this battery pack. So this is plug-in hybrid vehicle. And when we are heading towards battery electric vehicle or electric vehicle, that will not be having engine at all. So there will be a battery motor controller, and we can charge the traction battery using a plug or charge. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The next question, sir. Where does the battery charge, and generally how long it takes? Can you just give us few points on it, sir? It might vary from
Sure.
might vary from vehicle to vehicle, but if you could just give some inputs on that, sir.
Yeah. So charging, why we require charging? Because see, battery is our energy storage system. Battery is nothing but energy storage system. We are storing the energy that we are going to utilize to run our vehicle. So there is a ratio, or there is a factor called watt hour per kilometer. That is nothing but energy consumption. So how much energy consumption is happening, based on that we will be needing the charging. So there are different levels of charging: level 1 charging, level 2, level 3, like that. So we have to be very precise, we have AC charging, DC charging. AC will be slow charging, where DC will be fast charging. And how this charging will happen is when the battery, how the battery will work. So chemical energy, the energy storage will happen in terms of chemical reactions, and it will be getting stored like that. So when we are supplying a power supply, when we are supplying the power supply to our vehicle, so that charging will occur by accumulating the amount of charge, and that conversion or the reaction will take place, and the battery will get charged. I would like to share another slide. So I have something very interesting to show, but let me, just a second. I hope you're able to see.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we are preparing a course for EV charging thing. So in that, I would like to convey a very beautiful concept with regards to EV charging. So charging of an EV, it depends on vehicle as well as the battery type, and depending on the type of EV system or EV charging station. So whether it is a level 1 or level 2 or level 3 charging. So we have different levels of charging. So like level 1, which will add 2 to 5 miles of range per hour of charging. Level 2, that will add 10 to 20 miles of range per hour of charging. and DC fast charging, which will add 60 to 80 miles of range in 20 minutes of charging. So something like that. Yeah.
Sir, thank you very much for your wonderful inputs. It was very informative. So as we come to the end of today's session, I would like to thank all the participants who have taken part and who have been with us for this 2 hours of session. I think a lot of valuable inputs have been given to you. Hope it was useful. I request you all to raise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
So once again, thank you all the participants for joining with us. I would like to request you all to sign in fill up the feedback forms. Your feedback means a lot to us. So based on your feedback, we will try to modify our sessions, and all those who are filling up the feedback forms all the 3 days will get a e-certificate as well. So once again, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Looking forward to see you all tomorrow evening, same time. All the best. Take care, guys.